This is the Unregistered podcast, and I'm Thaddeus Russell. This is a show about ideas, people, and behaviors that are considered inappropriate, out of bounds, or beyond the pale. The things you're not supposed to talk about if you're a school teacher, a college professor, a businessman, a politician, a parent, a neighbor, or even a podcast host. These are the things you're not supposed to say or even think if you're a good liberal, a good conservative, or a good citizen. Each week, I'll interview a person who has something bad to say. They might be a journalist or a professor. They might be a porn star or a drug dealer. They might just be an ordinary person with an ordinary job who doesn't care about the rules of polite society. I'm not interested in breaking the rules just to be a troublemaker. I'm interested in people who break the rules of conventional thought and to expand the scope of what is possible to say in our society. I'm interested in people who make me think. At the recent Unregistered weekend in Chicago, we held a debate between Ben Burgis and Curtis Yarvin on the question of democracy. Before the debate, I conducted individual interviews with Ben and Curtis. And this is my interview with Ben Burgis. Well, I am in Chicago with Ben Burgis. And we are going to talk about a lot of things today, and don't feel constrained. I mean, the theme of the day is democracy, but, you can talk about it whatever you want. But I guess I think it's a great topic, especially for you, because democracy is central to the left project and always has been. I think you might say it is the project. I'm actually wondering if you think that. Mm-hmm. It's been called economic democracy, industrial democracy, various forms of democracy that the left has upheld and celebrated. I'm curious about it, but if you ask an American, I think you would agree with me, to define democracy or to argue for democracy, I don't think they could do it. Most Americans would be incapable of putting forth an argument for democracy in any way, right? Sure. They just know that it's good. I would say that it's an article of faith among most Americans. I know that you have far deeper ideas about it than most Americans do. I want to know what your relationship with democracy is. Okay. Sort of personally. In other words, why do you value it?
Sure. Just something about that phrase. It sort of sounds like I'm being asked to describe my personal relationship with Jesus, but don't really have one of those. But yeah, democracy. I mean, I think that one way to think about it, and I'm cribbing this to some extent from Eric Olin Wright, who, if people don't know, they should check out. He's a sociologist, has interesting things to say about a lot of subjects. And, the way that he puts it, like in his book, How to Be an Anti-Capitalist in the 21st Century, is that one way of thinking about how to divide up these concepts, because if I say, look, I care about democracy, some people here, I talked to a couple last night, but statistically it's an inevitability that 50% of people here are probably libertarians. And they would say, well, no, I don't really care about democracy. I care about freedom, right? That's what I care about. And one way of thinking about how these are related is that really these are both different aspects of the same value, which is self-determination. So there's a really important American socialist writer named Michael Walzer who has this phrase that he uses about how what touches all should be decided by all. And look, I know how to be an analytical philosopher and nitpick the shit out of that. But also I think there's a time and place for just saying, yeah, I know what you mean. And I'd suggest that for a second we can do that, right? We can go back and nitpick it in a minute, right?
Maybe a second.
A second, yeah. And because of course, everything touches everybody, whatever. But I think that there are, intuitively, I think that there are, broadly speaking, things that have more effect on your life and my life that I do, and things that have much less effect on your, in your life, what I do, and vice versa. And the flip side, so when it comes to things that largely only impact you, then self-determination gives you a value about individual freedom. That if you want to, if you want to get high in the privacy of of your own apartment and and have all night orgies and whatever, then you do you. It does not hurt me in any way, right? I'm good with that. But then you use phrases like economic democracy, industrial democracy. We were talking about the Project of the Left earlier. When it comes to things that impact everybody, when it comes to like the air that we all have to breathe and the water that we all have to drink and the workplaces where most adults have to spend half of their waking lives, then we're talking about things that profoundly impact everybody. And so I become interested in collective self-determination, because if you're only thinking about individual self-determination in those domains, then yeah, that individual gets to determine himself, and he also gets to determine the rest of us.
So much to talk about there. I'm trying to figure out where to intervene first. I guess I want to ask the question again, though.
Sure.
It's about you. Remember
Okay,
me?
me.
I like to talk about people's childhoods
sure,
and stuff
sure.
like that, who your parents
Okay,
were.
we're back to my personal relationship
Feelings.
with democracy.
It's about
Jesus.
feelings, Ben.
Okay.
I learned that from Ben Shapiro. It's all about feelings.
Yeah.
Why do you care?
Sure. Yeah. So, and this is good. I like this. So anybody, if you ever look at a picture at the cover of the first book I wrote, Give Them an Argument, there is a illustration there which was drawn by my friend Ryan Lake of Ben Shapiro, drawn as somebody actually, to quote a political enemy who I like as a person, drawn to scale on the cover, starting to say the phrase, "Facts don't care about your fee," and then he's being hushed by David Hume, who talks about facts and values. Right? And Hume's point is anytime you're drawing normative conclusions, you're drawing conclusions about what should happen, what would be good or bad, right or wrong, just or unjust, you can't actually derive any of that stuff from the non-moral facts on their own. They can't tell you that, right? Facts can be very relevant as supporting premises to get you to conclusions about that stuff, but the facts about how the world is can't in and of themselves tell you shit about which goals you should care about. So I think that ultimately, you can talk about which goals you care about by referencing. I was having a conversation with this gentleman in the front row about this last night, who's a Nietzsche scholar, has lots of interesting stuff to say. But you can argue in favor of goals that you care about by referencing goals that your interlocutor might care about, right? Goals that maybe you both care about more deeply, so you can use them to adjudicate ones that you care about less deeply. Eventually, though, if somebody just stubbornly says, nope, don't care about that, don't care about that, don't care about that, don't care about that, you can get to a point where there may legitimately be nothing left to say, which would be very sad. I think that the good news is psychologically, humans being what they are, that's actually a relatively rare situation. We usually do have some common ground that we can conduct an argument on. But yeah, ultimately, look, this is this is the least classy possible reference, but I'm just going to roll with it. There's an early season episode of South Park where the boys toilet paper the art teacher's house, and then their friend Butters ends up taking the blame for it. And Stan and Kyle said, "Oh, we feel bad about this. We're gonna admit to the principal what we did." And their friend Eric Cartman says, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, because Butters is taking the blame. That's not right." It's like, "Why? Like, I don't understand. We're not getting punished. Why do you feel bad?" "No, Cartman, we feel bad." Yeah, but we're not being punished. What's the problem?" And eventually, Kyle, I think probably says, "Eric, we feel bad about other people," and he just stares at him like he has no idea what they're talking about. And yeah, I mean, I think ultimately if you get to that point, then there might not be a lot else to say. But if you are interested in giving people a chance to lead, yourself and everybody else a chance to lead flourishing lives, to have meaningful relationships, to have their basic needs met, and to not to have to be under the thumb of the domination of other people in a way that, you know, most of us, I think, find intuitively objectionable, then democracy is for you. But yeah, I mean, I don't deny the conceptual possibility of Eric Cartman in this.